Back again on the Thomas Take. Welcome back. Thank you guys for joining me. Just wrapped up part one of today's show. Talked about the tough task that Phil Housley has in front of him as the head coach of the Buffalo Sabres. What should Housley expect? Is it the fact that Housley needs to win games? Is that the tough task? I don't think so. I think the tougher task is what I said in part one of today's show. On to part two. This part is dedicated to all the fantasy baseball players out there that listen to the podcast. Give me feedback in the Thomas Take mailbag. One of the Thomas Take mailbag questions, obviously, asked of me this week is to name some replacements for the rising star that is now a fallen star, Trea Turner. I feel like I jinxed the poor guy. A couple weeks after I posted that Washington doesn't have one superstar in Bryce Harper, they have two superstars in Washington, the other being Trea Turner. I was going up against Trea Turner this week. He's actually on my dad's team. My dad is in my fantasy baseball league. And Trea Turner had 7 stolen bases in the span of like 4 days. This guy is a true star. A ballistic stolen base pace was about to be set by Trea Turner, and it sucks that he got hurt. I actually enjoyed watching him really come to fruition, bring what he brought to the table, what was expected of him after the season that he had last year, the half season that he had last year, and obviously his multiple position eligibility, second base, shortstop, that really, really helps a fantasy manager, fantasy baseball player. When you have players that you can put in multiple positions, that really helps. Because when a guy is an off day, or if a guy is getting benched, baseball players need rest. It's a long season. So yeah, definitely, it's nice to have guys that can play multiple positions, and I think Trea Turner was probably the number one player that could play multiple positions in fantasy baseball. So Turner broke his right wrist last Thursday. It was a loss to the Cubs, and he was the latest casualty to the Washington Nationals. The Nationals have had some terrible injuries over the course of this season, and there's no timetable for his return. Obviously, a broken right wrist is not a good injury for a baseball player. For the month of June, he was the number 3 hitter in the Yahoo Sports game. His dominance was in 2 categories, runs and steals, a .311 average for the month of June. Turner had 23 runs and 20 steals on the month. Just on a complete tear. This is a key stat that was sent to me by Baseball Reference. That's only been done 23 times in the post-expansion era. And we've seen just 3 instances in the 2000s. It was the absolute worst time for Turner to get hurt. Realistically, the backup options that the Nationals have, Stephen Drew, Wilmer Defoe, those aren't, groundbreaking additions to the Nationals lineup. If you're a fantasy owner that used Trea Turner in your utility spot, then obviously you can get a utility player, first baseman, set any player of any position to fill that. There's more players to choose from, obviously. But in most cases, you are using Trea Turner as a second baseman, shortstop, and the outfield, where Turner also can be slotted. So there are more options to replace a player like Turner in your lineup if you were putting Trea Turner in your outfield. Scooter Gennett has 54% ownership. He grabs 3 positions. He slots in front of Joey Votto. There's 4 categories that Scooter Gennett can really contribute to. He had a huge day a few weeks back. He had 10 RBIs in a game. Ian Happ of the Chicago Cubs, 40% ownership. I think he's going to be an everyday player by season's end for the Cubs. Realistically, any player that has 8 home runs in a month should, cinch their way into the lineup. A guy that is really loved by the San Francisco Giants, as well as some fantasy owners. Very little fantasy owners, actually, in terms of Yahoo Sports. Joe Panik is owned by 12% of Yahoo Fantasy Sports leagues. He's hitting .341 over the past 30 days, and he's usually in the top, 3 or 2 in the Giants lineup. So it's tough. There's also highly touted prospects out there like Dansby Swanson, 35% ownership. But the man that I had my dad pick up, that I told him would slot in very well, was not the next guy I was going to mention, Manuel Margot, for the outfield. I had my dad pick up Chris Taylor from the Los Angeles Dodgers. That is a player that I think would most likely be the next fit for an owner that is missing out on Trea Turner. Luckily for my dad, Zach Cozart was also cut, so he was able to pick him back up onto his team. He also has Marwin Gonzalez of the Houston Astros. Chris Taylor, last night he had a grand slam. In his last 2 weeks, his average is .208. For the season, 40 runs, 10 home runs, 37 RBIs, 10 stolen bases. So in terms of stolen bases, he's probably going to be not Trea Turner level, but about as close as you could get. Really, there's not many players that can steal bases in the major leagues as of now. Cameron Maybin, Trea Turner, Billy Hamilton, that's virtually about it. Chris Taylor can play second, third, short, and outfield in Yahoo Sports leagues. Also, there's a guy out there by the name of Javier Baez. Chris Taylor is actually owned in 65% of leagues. If he's still owned, go out there, get him now. Marwin Gonzalez, he's definitely heavily more owned. But I would definitely say Chris Taylor, 65%, that's a player that you will have to see if he's available. And if he is, then go after him. Also, guy that's playing really well this year, only 44% ownership, Stephen Piscotty of the St. Louis Cardinals. He was projected as the 95th ranked player. But Stephen Piscotty's playing real well. Aaron Hicks is playing real well. Josh Reddick is playing really well. Ender Inciarte of the Atlanta Braves. Shin-Soo Choo is only owned by 24% of Yahoo Fantasy Sports League. So there are some guys out there. There are some players, but obviously you are not going to get the same return that you originally got for Trea Turner. And it's a really sad instance for the Nationals. I had the Nationals as a favorite to win the World Series represent the National League in the World Series this season. And based on Trea Turner's injury, I really don't know if that's going to happen. They do have Bryce Harper. They do have Daniel Murphy. They do have Ryan Zimmerman. Zimmerman has gotten a little bit cold at the plate as of this past month. But it's really tough. The pitching staff, Scherzer, Strasburg, Gio, 3 really good pitchers. But with Trea Turner out, Trea Turner was my X-factor player heading into the 2017 baseball season. And realistically, he was someone I had my eye on until my dad asked me about him. I'm like, well, I can't be that guy. I can't be that smoke screen guy and be like, I don't think he's that good, and then draft him. That would have been bit of a douchebag move. And being that my dad has Bryce Harper as well in our keeper league, I think that helped his team. Currently, I'm still in first. I got 2 teams really nipping at my heels. My buddy Alec and my buddy Ryan, oddly enough, nipping at my heels. And I'm looking at it right now. I got 5 games ahead of Alec and Ryan. So, 11 games ahead of 4th, 15 games ahead of 5th, 17 games ahead of 6th, 20 and a half ahead of my dad. But my dad has really turned things on. As of recently, he was really, really down the last, he was down by, I think, 35 categories. I've lost some. I've tied a lot, and that's allowed some teams to catch up on me a little bit. But I'm still in first place, so I've only lost 1 week this season. I've been very happy with that. Also, made the Scherzer trade, which I think is really going to help, and sent Jake Faria, sent Carlos Carrasco, sent Justin Bohr. and multiple top picks for Max Scherzer. Really trying to three-peat this year. So we'll see if that happens. But Trea Turner, man, I feel very bad for him. Feel very bad for the fantasy owners that owned Trea Turner in the 2017 season. I really thought that he was going to be a real cog in that Nationals lineup, and I was actually right. I mean, obviously this is an injury. This isn't, he's not dead or anything like that. He's going to come back from it, but it's a tough injury. A wrist injury is a very bad injury. So that's definitely not a good injury in terms of baseball. So trying to swing a bat with a broken wrist does not really bode well for a player. So. Guys that I had, Scooter Gennett, he's obviously someone that has been a key contributor to the Cincinnati Reds this season. Hits behind Joey Votto, Chris Taylor, Los Angeles Dodger, and a few other players. Gennett, 54%, Chris Taylor, 65%. But if you could even try to swing a trade for one of those two guys, I really think that you'll be in good hands in the absence of Trea Turner. So that was my fantasy baseball edition of the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Just discussed, in case you're just joining me, you can push rewind on the Spreaker app or on YouTube. Just discussed who could replace Trea Turner. And obviously, there's not many players in this game that are owned by less than 50% of Yahoo Fantasy Sports Leagues that could really replace him. The only two guys that I think could do moderately well in replacing Trea Turner would be, in terms of middle infield additions, Scooter Gennett and I'm drawing a blank now. Crap. Scooter Gennett. Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. Scooter Gennett. I just had it. Let's see here. Scooter Gennett and Chris Taylor. I'm looking at it right now. I wrote these down in my notes. Scooter Gennett and Chris Taylor. That's really it. And Joe Panic as well. If you're putting Trea Turner in an outfield slot, then obviously Joe Panic, 12% ownership in Yahoo Fantasy Sports Leagues. That's somebody that the Giants really like. He hits high in the lineup. He's reliable. They got a few guys like that, Joe Panic, Brandon Belt, guys that are not really the biggest name, but they produce. So that was the Thomas Take. I'm Ryan Thomas. Good luck the rest of the way to all fantasy baseball players, especially me.